Brian Kelly fired from LSU. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about LSU, Louisiana State University, and the pseudo-surprising, not really surprising if you watch the A&M game, but pseudo-surprising firing of head coach Brian Kelly. Now, talking about this today, partly because a lot of my viewers are obviously LSU fans, but also so I don't have to talk about the Saints and the Buccaneers game for at least another day. So, Colin Cowherd, Uncle Colin is the backdrop with John Middlecoff. Let's go ahead and talk about it.
It's just interesting. You watch all these guys. Speaking of college, reportedly Brian Kelly has a $54 million buyout. For the record, I was told this weekend by somebody in college coaching that these universities, after a couple of years, have insurance policies. So if they do have to fire a coach, insurance comes in, like a James.
Yeah, the insurance is called anonymous donor is the insurance. Now, I've heard a million different things about the buyout. I've heard that he's not going to get all of it. I've heard that it was a single donor who's covering it. Here's a little advice. When it comes to these college programs nowadays, that buyout, that's monopoly money. Now that, the lid is off of where funding comes from for players and coaches and athletic departments and all of that, drop in the bucket. So don't worry too much about the buyout.
Franklin, and can cover a big part of that nut. So LSU has a $54 million buyout on Brian Kelly, who's 64 years old. He's a really good coach. I think he took it for the money. I don't think his heart was in it. I had somebody tell me a year ago who knows Brian, he didn't want to recruit in the South. He's not here for the grind. Here's
the thing with Brian Kelly, and it happened in Notre Dame too. Brian Kelly cares way more about the BK than he does about the ND or than he did about the LSU. All right, Brian Kelly is number one on the priority list. And the school, the institution, the passion, the program, the culture, the whatever, fan base, all that, secondary. Okay. So, yeah, I think he took it with the idea of, look, I'll take this super high paying, super high profile job. I mean, LSU's probably, I would say comfortably, I had to think about it, but comfortably a top 5 job in the country. Borderline top 3. There's some pros and cons for sure for everywhere, but definitely top 5. Definitely the new number 1 job available. You know who's pissed off right now? Florida. Florida ain't happy right now because Florida's sitting here thinking like, man, we were the head honcho job, and now what are we going to do? Like LSU's probably going to get the top candidate that would have went to Florida. And I'm sure we'll get to that later. But Brian Kelly was the guy who took this job and took the money, high-profile job, one of the top colleges in the SEC, the top conference in college football at the time, right? And if it worked out, cool. It worked out. He'd take credit for it. If it didn't work out, whatever. I can scream at a coordinator. I can get rid of a player. I can do whatever. But, yeah, Brian Kelly did not have the respect, I think, for the program. And the program was secondary, which isn't going to work nowadays, and it's certainly not going to work in LSU.
Listen, when you get into your 60s, I'm lucky I don't feel this way. Maybe I will. I love going to work. I love doing this. But some guys get to their 60s, and if they've been in really, really intense careers, and they go to their wife and go, listen, it's an $80 million contract. Even if I get fired, we can buy that second beach place. We got a place in the Cape. We can buy one in West Palm Beach. And the kids are like, go for it, Dad. And I kind of feel like with Brian Kelly, it was a go for it, Dad move. He wasn't a natural fit. He was sort of an older Midwestern guy who's really intense, can be combative. He had the fake, and I like Brian Kelly, but he had kind of the fake Southern twang. People said it was like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it was very embarrassing. Like we all remember the beginning of the Brian Kelly era where the fake accent and he was dancing around. I mean, it was just, even then, it's like, this isn't really a match. But winning fixes everything, right? I don't care if the coach is from Alaska. If they're winning, he will be embraced by any school in the SEC. Okay, Nick Saban, spoiler alert, was not born in Baton Rouge. Wasn't born in Louisiana. Okay, Nick Saban came from Michigan State. It doesn't matter where you come from, as long as you, I think, have some kind of respect for the school, the fans, the program, the history, the whatever, and you win. And I don't think Brian Kelly had it. He didn't have the respect, and then he didn't win.
His dialect, his voice changed as he went below the Mason-Dixon line. It's like, I just feel like it just never felt right to me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it ended last night. I mean, I thought A&M.
Hell yeah. I was watching that game. Things were close, and then it wasn't close, and it was so embarrassing at home, at night again. Like, it's not exactly having respect for the job per se, but even that, like, Death Valley at night, SEC game, that's it's not supposed to look how it looked against A&M in the second half. When that second half was going on, that's when I think the writing was on the wall of just there's no possible way he's going to make it through that. And then lo and behold, I even put out a tweet that was like over under Tuesday he gets fired. Then he gets fired on Sunday. So way under.
Kind of took LSU's soul as a program in the third quarter. And that's a program that anyone around LSU has not viewed anywhere close to as an equal for decades. And the other thing is Brian Kelly took over a program where the last three coaches won national championships.
Yeah.
And that includes Ed Ogeron and Les Miles.
Yeah.
Who I would say in a vacuum, you would say, who's a better coach? Right? Brian Kelly or those guys. I think most people in football would say, I would take Brian Kelly to run my program.
Well, that also is kind of what happened, right? It was that you had the Ed Orgeron situation where he wins the Natty. I think everyone accepted, like, I mean, this was kind of a lightning in a bottle kind of thing. Is he an X's and O's guy? Is he the guy moving forward? Probably not, but he wins a Natty and, arguably the greatest college team of all time. And, okay, cool, but the shine went off that rose pretty quickly, and I think the whiplash was, let's get a coach in here. Like, let's get a tried and true college football coach in here to kind of reset things, to kind of, all right, we ran off vibes for a minute there. We ran off the Joe Burrow and the Orgeron and the TikToks and the Instagram reels and all that stuff from that team. That's lost its luster. So now let's try and get back to just a general, just the teacher in the room, the adult in the room. And I think that was Brian Kelly.
But down there you would not. And listen, obviously Ed had his faults, started feeling himself and had some other stuff going on, but took a lot of passion in the region, obviously enjoyed recruiting. He got lapped. I thought when Lane beat him back-to-back years, I said, I don't think it's going to fly well. Ole Miss is now the better program. Then Vanderbilt kicks his ass because that's what they did 2 weeks ago. And then last night, I thought it officially, like, I just don't see how you could just keep going. This is not year 2. This is year 4. And to me,
well, this is also, and Nussmeier's been hurt or whatever, but this was a team where after the Clemson game, it was like, all right, they are national champion contenders. Now we know that Clemson was Fugazi, and that was all it was what it was. But this was not a depleted roster where off the bat you're thinking, okay, this rebuilding year or whatever. That doesn't happen at LSU. And John's right. Lose the Ole Miss game, the Vanderbilt game, Texas A&M. It's all right, guys. We got to something's not working here. Something's not right. This can't happen here.
You know who's really forever? It was like Saban put a lot of people on the unemployment line because like Florida, Georgia, they held themselves to that standard. Now I think some of these programs are looking at Lane. It's like, well, he's at Ole Miss, locked to win 9-10 games with his eyes closed. And now this year, after he beats Oklahoma, he's going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I give Lane a lot of credit. And I think there's some people he clearly has cleaned up his life, right?
Yep.
He changed his life.
Yeah, doesn't drink at all anymore. I just saw an interview. He's like a couple years sober.
You see it in his face, the booze. I mean, it's evident. His personality feels like what he has done. LSU would not even have talked to him when they had the opening and they hired Brian Kelly. Oregon
I would hire Lane. I'd hire Lane Kiffin at LSU tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I mean, Lane is the top candidate right now everywhere. Florida was going to go all in on Lane. Well, now they kind of got to wait on LSU. LSU is now the top domino. Certainly, I mean, it depends on the coach. Like if a coach wants to stay in the Northeast or out West or whatever, but if a coach is interested in the SEC, LSU becomes the top domino in the entire country that this is going to work, right? Any name that you hear, the first conversation is probably going to be with LSU. And man, what a pivotal moment. I mean, what a pivotal moment for LSU where you've got all these jobs open. Florida, Penn State. I mean, huge programs, huge money. And you got to find the right person because college football is moving way too fast with NIL and how this is all working out. Same with Penn State. Same with Florida. You can't whiff. You can't whiff now because with the way things are moving, all of a sudden you have no leverage, you have no money, you have nothing. And yeah, the road to futility can be rather quick. So this hire, whoever it is, this hire has to be a home run for LSU, for Penn State, for Florida.
Oregon wouldn't interview him. Now, I think LSU goes, well, Lane, listen, I mean, I have a lot of...
2 weeks ago, maybe not even, I was still hearing people say, well, if Bama moves on from DeBoer, maybe they'll get Lane. And now Alabama's looking at winning a national championship. But it wasn't too long ago, literally about 2 weeks ago, where people were having that conversation of like, well, if DeBoer, if the season isn't good and we fire DeBoer, we just get Lane, So he's being tied to jobs that aren't even open.
Respect for Ole Miss, the program, what he's done. If he gets the opportunity, I think he's going to go to Florida. But maybe LSU goes, we're a way better program than Florida.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
They fired 4 guys since Urban Meyer. That program is a joke. We win national championships here with anybody. And Lane's no dummy. He's been in the conference long enough, especially at Alabama and Ole Miss, had a front row seat for LSU. You could argue that job with the recruiting aspect, especially if they're going to fund, give you the money. Ole Miss is giving them the money. It's got to be a top 5 job in America potentially.
I already said that, John. Yeah, I would say so. And again, coaches are different. Like West Coast coaches want to stay out west. Northeast coaches want to stay Northeast. But if you're looking at the entirety of the country, yeah, it's a top 5 job.
So if he's willing to go to Florida, why wouldn't he be going to LSU? So if he's willing to move, if I'm LSU, I make this move. Because the other thing is you just can't go on. It becomes like apathetic. People just quit on Brian Kelly. The other thing is, Colin, when you're a CEO, head coach, there were some videos. Did you see some of them last night of him screaming at his coaches? Once you start screaming at your offense.
Well, that's Brian Kelly, though. That's what I was saying earlier, where I think he knew how that game optically was going. He knew we're on TV, prime time, everyone's watching. I think he was setting up to... He was probably going to go into that. He may have went into that athletic department on Sunday and said, "Yeah, I'll fire Sloan, whatever." He was already trying to line up who was going to fall on the sword, and it wasn't going to be him. And then they said, "Nah, man, you're gone. You're out of here." But I guarantee you, what he was doing on the sideline was to show the world, like, "Hey, man, I'm just as upset as y'all are. Don't worry, I'll get this situated. I'll fire this guy. Don't worry, I'm." BK will get you figured out.
As a coordinator, why are you doing that on third down? Your special teams goes, like, Brian, you are the boss. You could tell them run a different play when you're in the headset. So I just think that it's all out of whack right now. And it to me, it unofficially ended last night.
So, I mean, what do you do now? Right? Like, if you're LSU, who do you go after? Do you go after Lane? I'm already hearing people say, no, Nick Saban. It's just crazy the names that are being tossed around. But they should have the pick of the litter. And they got to hit it. But it's a crazy time right now for LSU because you're looking at, you just lost out on Bryce Underwood, which we'll see how that plays out. But you just lost out on that. The Nussmeier era is over. Now you're coachless. And all of a sudden, a lot of other teams in the SEC that didn't look like they were threats, all of a sudden they look like threats. A&M, Ole Miss, Bama, Vanderbilt, Georgia's Georgia. All of a sudden, you're looking around like, man, the SEC's okay right now. These are some power players. These are some big boys. So you got to get a coach in there who can recruit, who can bring players back to LSU, and who understands that the identity and the culture of the program. They don't have to be from Louisiana. They don't have to be eating gumbo during the interview, but they have to understand what LSU is. And they have to understand the history and just, the pomp and the circumstance, and they got to bring it back to what it was. They got to bring it back to what it means, right, to play defensive back at LSU, what it means to be the starting running back at LSU, what it means to be part of that wide receiver lineage. They got to find that. Who is that? We'll see. We don't know. A long way to go before before those dominoes fall, but the first domino absolutely is with LSU. But Brian Kelly, I'll tell you this, it's crazy because you look around and it's like, damn, you know who was the real winner with Brian Kelly going to LSU? Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, all of a sudden, the shine is back on their helmets. And that's kind of what was missing for a while there. It's like, it just didn't feel like Notre Dame. You know, it felt like just another above average team. And all of a sudden now Notre Dame means something. All right. And similarly, LSU kind of lost that shine, certainly has lost it this year. And now they got to find it back. Now they got to get the next coach who brings that prestige back to that helmet and back to that stadium and makes a nighttime SEC game in Death Valley look a little different than it did against A&M. All right, let me know in the comments below who you would pick. Who are you interested in? Are you going to risk it all for Lane Kiffin? Are you going to give Nicholas a call? See if Nicky Saban wants to come down there for a few years? See if he wants to turn things around? Huh? What are you doing? You going young coach, proven coach, Urban Meyer? What's Orgeron doing? What are you doing? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.